Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso is now officially set for SummerSlam. It's not going to only be for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, but also to crown the tribal chief of the Bloodline in a match that is being described as tribal combat. Dominic Mysterio also retained his NXT North American Championship last night on SmackDown on FS1. Several NXT stars were actually on SmackDown last night. We'll give you details on who they were. Rey Mysterio advances in the United States Championship #1 Contenders Tournament. Several medical issues actually affected SmackDown last night, changing the lineup of the show. The Women's Championship match has been now made official for SummerSlam later on next month. And also, are there any plans to split up the Street Profits in WWE? Well, apparently not. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about SmackDown last night. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. The rules of engagement have been delivered. Yes, Roman Reigns was set to deliver his rules of engagement to Jey Uso Friday night on SmackDown, but it was Jey who would issue a challenge for tribal combat. The cousins will battle not only for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, but the right to be the tribal chief of the Bloodline when SummerSlam heads to Detroit on August 5th. In a much shorter Bloodline segment than what was seen 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, Reigns and Jey faced off in the middle of the ring for what initially appeared to be a standard contract signing. After Reigns called Jey just a pawn in the game, Jey ripped up the contract in front of him and told a shocked Reigns that there would be no contract because the contract is in the blood. This right here, this is tribal combat now, Jey told the champion. He then explained that tribal combat means that anything goes, saying he could use a kendo stick or a steel chair on Reigns or put him through any number of tables. Jey also said that the elders of the Bloodline knew about his challenge and that in fact it was their idea. Reigns and Uso shook hands in the middle of the ring after Reigns draped his lei over the title, not one to leave the ring without a fight. Solo Sikoa, who accompanied Reigns to the ring alongside Paul Heyman, went to hit his brother with a Samoan spike, but Reigns prevented it, allowing Jey to hit Sikoa with a super kick as Reigns looked on. So what were your thoughts on the segment? What are your thoughts on the match at SummerSlam? And who do you think will leave as not only the undisputed Universal Champion, but also the tribal chief of the Bloodline? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, it was definitely a very NXT feel to SmackDown last night on FS1, primarily because they were in Orlando, Florida, just a stone's throw away from the WWE Performance Center. But Dominic Mysterio has wasted no time after his first taste of singles gold, successfully defending his newly won NXT North American title on Friday night's edition of SmackDown in Orlando, Florida. After a controversial victory over Wes Lee on the July 18 episode of NXT, which included plenty of assistance from his fellow Judgment Day members, Mysterio would be talked into a bout with Butch on SmackDown, with Shawn Michaels giving the go-ahead for the title match. In the early stages of the bout, Butch gained the advantage and worked over Mysterio's arms, hands, and fingers in trademark style, but Rhea Ripley interfered, handing her partner a steel chain. Ridge Holland would then make his way down to the ringside area to take the chain away from Mysterio, allowing Butch to gain a near fall. After the commercial break, Mysterio took control as injured Pretty Deadly star Elton Prince was wheeled out by Kip Wilson to distract Holland and Butch following last week's unfortunate incident, ultimately leading to the champion securing the pin and escaping with his title after a fair share of shenanigans. The Judgment Day has become a prominent fixture on Tuesday nights recently, with Finn Balor becoming embroiled in a rivalry with NXT champion Carmelo Hayes. Throughout the night, a host of NXT stars from NXT, including the aforementioned Hayes and other people, were included on SmackDown. We'll get into that in just a second. But what did you think of Dominic Mysterio's first title defense on the blue brand? Now, when it comes to his victory over Wes Lee on Tuesday night's edition of NXT, obviously, the ratings for NXT rose this week following Dominic Mysterio's victory over Wes Lee that saw him become the brand new NXT North American champion, and people in the company were very impressed with it, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Said people were pleased with the fact that it led to a 72.2% year-over-year increase in the 18 to 49 demographic, while it was also pointed out that the final quarter was actually similar to what AEW Dynamite had done, while also beating the previous AEW Collision. The idea inside the company is that with this being a contract year, the gains are coming at a perfect time for a renewal price, with people inside NXT hoping to push the numbers to defeat Dynamite. Therefore, if talent such as Mysterio are helping to achieve that, then WWE will be keeping them tapped into the main roster stars on Tuesday nights in that way. So certainly, if you're enjoying main roster stars on NXT, it's going to continue, and the crossover doesn't stop there, because NXT stars, as I mentioned, were all over Friday Night SmackDown last night on FS1. You had the likes of the NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton actually wrestled in a dark match versus Kiana James. Again, it was not shown on TV, but Stratton was there. You can see it on the screen right there. Wesley and Dragon Lee were shown in the crowd and introduced by the announcers. In addition to that, you had Haley and Hannah, the Cavender twins, were shown in the crowd and introduced by the announcers too. Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo and the Creed brothers, Brutus and Julius, were shown very briefly backstage as Jey Uso was walking by. NXT Champion Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams were shown in the crowd and introduced by the announcers. As I mentioned, NXT Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton was shown in the crowd and introduced by the announcers as well, which you can see on the screen at the moment. NXT North American Champion Dominic Mysterio, who was actually a Monday Night Raw superstar, appearing on SmackDown, and an NXT Champion, the Brand Splits, defended his title against Butch after the match was made official by NXT booker Shawn Michaels. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams then appeared again later in the show to meet with Bobby Lashley backstage, but we weren't shown what they were meeting about. Of course, it does come after Bobby Lashley seemingly teased starting a new faction with the Street Profits. We'll talk about the Street Profits just a bit later on, but what were your thoughts on all of this NXT involvement on the show? Again, most likely it was just because SmackDown last night was in Orlando, Florida, the home of the WWE Performance Center, so the travel was fairly easy. But is this another indication of WWE really doubling down on having this main roster influence over NXT, and therefore hoping that the ratings and viewership numbers continue to rise with WWE's developmental brand on Tuesday nights on the USA Network? Now let's talk about the United States Championship, because to a surprise to many, LA Knight will not be challenging for the United States Championship. It's going to be a battle of Latino World Order members next Friday on SmackDown in the final of the United States Championship Invitational, as Rey Mysterio defeated LA Knight, Cameron Grimes and Sheamus in the tournament semi-final. He will face fellow LWO member Santos Escobar to earn a shot at Austin Theory's title. The Fatal 4-Way match kicked off Friday's episode of SmackDown with a slew of signs in the crowd supporting Knight and Theory, even at ringside but not on commentary. All competitors seemed evenly matched at the beginning of the bout. Sheamus hit an impressive suplex-like turnbuckle spot mid-match, taking all men out before the show went to commercial. After Mysterio had broke up multiple pin attempts by Knight on Sheamus, the Hall of Famer got both Sheamus and Grimes on the bottom rope to hit them with a double 619. Mysterio then hit Grimes with the splash from the top rope and attempted a pin, but Theory got up from his spot by the announce table to pull Mysterio out of the ring. After Escobar came down the ramp to attack Theory, taking the fight into the crowd, Sheamus hit a big brogue kick on Grimes, which was then followed by a flurry of offense from all competitors before Mysterio was able to get the 3 count on Knight for the victory. Escobar returned to the ring to raise Mysterio's hand and even went on to defeat Theory in a non-title match later on in the evening. So what are your thoughts on Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar next week, and what are your thoughts on LA Knight not winning? What are the plans for LA Knight? Do you think there are any plans? Do you think it's a case of, like Triple H said, good things come to those who wait? Or is there a nefarious source somewhere in WWE of LA Knight's lack of a push despite the fact he's getting even more popular? What are your thoughts on the match last night, and what are your thoughts on LA Knight's future in WWE, particularly as his popularity increases, with him right now having the #1 merch sales in WWE too? Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comment section below. Now, last night had a heavy influence of NXT on it, but it also was heavily impacted possibly by medical issues. Friday Night SmackDown reportedly went through some changes due to medical issues possibly related to COVID-19. According to Mike Johnson from PW Insider, the word making the rounds at the show was that the changes were because of talent being pulled due to medical reasons. Johnson reported that one version of the story was that there was a positive COVID-19 test, or at least several COVID-19 tests, or talents were in contact with someone who tested positive. As of this recording, there was no word on who tested positive or what changes were exactly made to SmackDown and when they occurred, either before or during the broadcast. As I mentioned, the opening match on Friday's episode saw Rey Mysterio defeat LA Knight, Sheamus, and Cameron Grimes in a four-way match to advance to the final of the United States Championship Invitational. Mysterio will face off against fellow LWO member Santos Escobar next week. Charlotte defeated Io Sky after Shotzi appeared on the big screen to distract both Bayley and Sky. As I mentioned, we also had that segment involving Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. If we get any more details as to who tested positive or what changes it actually had on the show and which people were pulled, which people were added in, of course, we'll let you know in a future video. And here's hoping the person who has tested positive or the people that were in contact with the person that tested positive, they recover quickly as well. Speaking of Charlotte Flair, we now have a match made official for SummerSlam in August for the Women's Championship. As WWE inches closer to SummerSlam, the card is starting to really take form. Earlier this week, the first two matches, Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, were officially put on the books. And now the SummerSlam Twitter account has announced a third one, as Asuka will defend her WWE Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair in a triple threat match. Since winning the bout at Night of Champions, Asuka has found herself targeted from all directions of the SmackDown Women's division. After her title defense against Charlotte Flair resulted in a no contest last month, Asuka pivoted her attention to Bianca Belair, who was directly responsible for said no contest. On the July 14 edition of SmackDown, Belair finally received her Night of Champions rematch against Asuka, but with the presence of Flair, Bayley, and Women's Money in the Bank winner Io Sky at ringside, chaos was bound to ensue. As Sky appeared to be set to cash in her Money in the Bank briefcase, Flair hopped over the barricade to stop her. In the middle of their subsequent scuffle, Flair inadvertently struck Belair with a spear, causing the referee to end the title match due to a disqualification. Despite Belair's victory, Asuka still stood tall as the WWE Women's Champion. This set up a triple threat match and the natural endpoint of the storyline, and indeed, the newly revealed match is reportedly part of WWE's plan since at least the beginning of July. So reportedly, this has always been the plan, and that plan is going to come to a conclusion at SummerSlam. The question is, who's going to win? Who do you think leaves Detroit and Ford Field as the WWE Women's Champion? Let me know your thoughts, your predictions in the comment section below. Now, lots of people are asking about the Street Profits. What's the plan with the Street Profits recently? Of course, there was this tease last week involving the Street Profits possibly teaming up with Bobby Lashley in some sort of a faction. While it appears that SmackDown is going to be feeling the smoke for the foreseeable future, as WWE is not planning to split up the Street Profits anytime soon, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Pulling Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford apart is something that has been heavily rumoured for months, with plenty of fans weighing in on the idea, but that doesn't appear to be the plan for the popular tag team. Last Friday, WWE seemingly teased starting a brand new faction involving the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, with the trio leaving together in a car, leading to speculation about them working together. WWE didn't use Lashley or the Street Profits much in the build-up to this, but it appears that the trio are likely to be a babyface group moving forward. Right now, it's unclear what the firm plans are for them, whether or not it'll be billed as the Hurt Business 2.0 or something entirely different, but it is expected that the trio will be starting to work together as a unit from now on. This will keep Ford and Dawkins together for the foreseeable future, which is something that Dawkins has admitted to wanting to do. He has previously stated that they like to be like the New Day, who have never turned on each other or officially split up. However, the trio have all worked single storylines, with Big E and Kofi Kingston both winning the WWE Championship while representing the faction, something that the Street Profits could do in the future, certainly. Of course, last night as well was also teased that Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams could be involved in this potential faction. So again, we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. But there you go, guys, the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.